making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, roomies, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brooks Bigley, and with me tonight is Christina Delia, the author of Season 4, Episode 7, entitled Deathbed. How are you this evening, Christina?
I'm well, Brooks. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for climbing aboard on this train of ours with this podcast that we're currently going on. Your story was super impactful for me, so I'm very excited that we get to chat about this. Where are you located at? I'm
located in New Jersey, the Garden State.
Okay, so East Coast.
Yes.
I guess where you're from and your your current surroundings don't exactly influence the story per se, because the setting, other than like a hotel, and then her dreams didn't really play a factor in this. But how's the weather out there? Are you inundated with snow? I know nothing about New Jersey.
There might be some snow this weekend. We had some snow before. There was supposed to be this like big monster storm that never came to fruition, but there was like panicked radio and state of emergency and nothing. But there was a little snow after that, and now a little more this weekend maybe, or maybe it'll be a monster storm. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm in California, no snow, but I feel like in my mind, there was tons of snow out there. That's perfect. Put on some candles, read some horror books. Like, what else do you need?
Yes. I feel like Jack Torrance in The Shining sometimes when it gets like really snowy. I mean, it's just like during the pandemic, like when that first started, I was like, uh-oh, we're going to run out of coffee.
Yeah. It rains here, so cold weather, rainy weather, that makes me want to curl up with a book on the couch. I mean, there's nothing better than that to me. It's definitely needed in times like this.
Yes.
So, hey, let's get into this story then. Deathbed is, Deathbed was such a beautiful human story, and I mean, you had so many different themes. You had astrology, definitely going through things, but even just more than that, there was just like this higher vibe thinking type of thing going on. Just her perceptions of life in general and how that played out in love. These themes of love and what true love is, and what the love that we settle for is. Themes of just like the path that we're on, and if you could see the path that you're on, can you do anything about it? Can you change anything about your path, given any kind of foresight? So I was like, my neck had that, like, when you get in like a warm bath and like you just feel that warmth come over you and it prickles your neck a little bit. Like when I was listening to the story, for the full impact, that's exactly what was going on listening through. So, amazing job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. Your voice actor is an amazing, phenomenal job. Like I'm just like blown away because, and if anything, I mean, it's interesting. Some of this stuff in here is, a lot of times I think my writing is kind of coded. Like it'll be things that have happened in my own life. And it's almost like little, I won't call them inside jokes because it's not accurate, but like little inside moments of like, this was that year, this was what happened, and a lot of the details are me. And yet it was triggering, but I don't see triggering in a bad way. And I know I have friends who are horror writers and editors, and they, you do get triggered, but I really do believe horror is so healing. Like, I mean, and everybody's different. There are some people I know that are like, oh, I can't. And I think the idea of horror freaks them out. But to me, horror is so empowering because you can you don't have to be anxious. You don't have to be afraid. You can reclaim your space, and especially your space within yourself, so that I was triggered for sure. Like I was like, wow, hearing, and they did a great job, but it's necessary to heal, like working through things. It's liberating.
Well, so let's work our way through your story then, because like I enjoy this. There's this. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual, and there's this connection between Lila and Abby that permeates through the story. And there was nothing that Abby could do, and yet Abby was doing everything to kind of help get Lila to see just what the hell was going on. But let's go to the beginning. So How did you come up with the concept just for this story about this woman that is going through losing her love at a young age, settling as an adult, still being connected to that old lover? How did you start to come up with this?
I believe I had kind of a weird dream, and just about friends from the past, and there wasn't a red wedding dress in it, but I always loved Lydia Dietz's red wedding dress in Beetlejuice. Like, oh, if I get married, I'm going to have a Halloween wedding and I'm going to wear a red wedding dress and I'm going to be so goth. And then when I did get married, it was not like that at all. It was, basically me trying to normalize and fit into the standard of what I thought the American dream was supposed to be for me. Like, basically know my role kind of shit, if you will, since you said I can curse.
Pour the water in the ice tray. Yeah.
Yeah. And, a lot of people subscribe to it and really love, being traditional in that way. And I applaud them if they're living their truth, but I was not living mine. And the duality of that is definitely, comes up again and again in the story. If you can see that there was a lot of, trying to be what I thought I was supposed to be versus who I am.
Yeah, and Lila would outwardly present, by getting engaged to Tanner and dealing with this monster of a man. And not to mention that Tanner's like this completely sterilized version, of a person to be in a relationship with. Like, you didn't sound like Lila got anything from him other than just, well, I guess I'm supposed to be in this now. I'm at this age now, so this is what should happen now. So that was super impactful to me because I in my own personal life went through my own, decade or more of got to be this way, gotta get married, gotta have kids, and then sometimes things happen, things change, and it completely changes your outlook on everything. So, I mean, I didn't get killed or anything, but for Lila, like still being connected back to A.B. and how that love was such a powerful, like that was her quiet lover, and that's what got her through this. It was very impactful again to me that she was able to connect to this larger than life spirit. It wasn't, I never got the idea that, oh, A.B. is a ghost and he's just hanging around and she's seeing him. Like, it was way deeper than that. Absolutely. Like whatever source we all come from, like this was a fun journey to be like, hey, it could be this way. And to me also, let me add, like, A.B. being naked all the time. Like, I just figured that was like the representation of him. You mentioned how, or Lila mentions how he was naked, on the table in the corners. And so to me, that was the last time he was alive. That representation of him still in this world, I guess, being naked. It was just a weird, not weird, but like an interesting thing behind it. You never had to explain that, really.
It was intended to be a little jarring because it's like, what's this naked guy doing here? Like, it's a little off-putting, but then also just like vulnerability, rawness. Like, she was not allowing herself to be vulnerable. She put up this wall of everything's fine. But she gave up. She gave up within herself, and she was not being true to herself. And when you betray yourself, everything else goes to hell, at least in my experience. And I just think, like, this was a person who she felt, okay, I had this perfect, beautiful love and he's gone. So now I guess she also wanted to keep it alive in her mind. So it was like, kind of a manifestation of that. And maybe that is why she settled into this sadness, but also she never got over the shock of this person dying and leaving her.
Yeah. So. Again, my own interpretation. This is another brilliant example. You've written a story where listeners can take what they want based on how they receive and maybe what, they've been through. And I just thought, to me, it was a beautiful subplot of how their connection was, it seemed like a pure one. And throughout, this world where there's a lot of hate and a lot of division and just a lot of crazy shit. And, like we said, she felt she had to play the part. That's why she was with Tanner. But still that pure love, even though he was dead, could still somehow exist. Her love for him was still real. Whether she was pining for him, whether it was maybe not beneficial, it still was something that she connected to. But that caused such a discordant way for her, I guess, to deal with her life. Because, in the story, she was not faring very well. She was losing weight. She wasn't brushing her teeth, and we haven't even talked about her dreams yet. some people will be like, dreams are just dreams. Weird shit happens and that's all that it is. And other people are like, no, your dreams are trying to tell you something. You are having those dreams for a reason, whether it's an outward thing that you believe in that, again, like whatever source we're from is just giving you windows into what's happening, or whether just you yourself are conjuring those dreams because kind of like a writer, you're going through something, so your brain is helping write that as a way to get through an emotion while you're sleeping. So many themes. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
So how then did you kind of conceptualize this notion of Madame? Oh gosh, forgive me. What was her name? Madame Simone.
Madame Simone. Yes.
Because you brought that you could have told the whole story without that aspect, and yet you were able to layer that into it, and it was with great effect. It gave us that window into seeing that future that was going to happen.
I just thought she was an ominous figure, and I've had a lot of different dream dictionary books that I consult. Like, I have a weird dream, I wake up, what does this mean? There was bread in my dream. What's happening? Like, I don't know anything. And then, like, just the idea that this one could this woman and then the grandmother, they could go in between, she's a real book, and the grandmother was a real person in life, but there's this, like, weird, mystical, kind of ominous, Twin Peaks Red Room kind of, like, I don't know, like, just energy that I could kind of bring out the more supernatural horror manifestations, like, the crow, and then like weird dreams are weird. Like, I mean, the strangest things happen in your dream. And I had a dream one time. I was a bridesmaid, and I think it was like Lena Dunham or somebody was there, and we were all eating blueberries. And I'm like, what does this mean? Why am I eating these? Even in the dream, I'm like, why am I doing this? It was just very strange. So I love the weirdness of dreams. So I kind of wanted to capture that.
I'm very jealous, I think, of people who dream because, of course, I know that I also dream, but I'm that person where the very second I wake up, I'm like, oh, my God, all of that, and then wait a minute, oh, whoops, and then it's gone. It just falls out of my brain. Like, it could have been the most funnest, elaborate, scariest, fun, just anything that it is, any way that a dream will be presented to you. I'll remember it for that split second waking up, and then I forget it all. And I've tried to, like, keep the pen and the paper next to your bed and write things, but as I'm reaching for that pen, it's gone. It's so bizarre. And yet, like, my girlfriend can have very, very deep, intense dreams and, wake up and then explain for 10 minutes over breakfast, like, what... all the nuances of everything and what this could mean and what that could mean. I just sit there like, God damn it, I envy you. So
that's so funny.
It's really, it's cool when people can remember this stuff.
But the flip side of that is, if you can't remember it, you probably don't remember your nightmares either, which would hopefully be good. I mean, for horror purposes, it's fascinating to remember your nightmares. But for like life stress purposes, sometimes you wake up and like, oh, what happened? It was just a dream. Freddy's not getting me, or whatever the heck's happening.
That's actually true. Yeah, I have not ever woken up in the middle of the night with like an intense fear because I wasn't, processing something. That doesn't happen to me either. So I guess, I don't know though. Like, that's like saying like, well, I don't enjoy anything good in life, but then I don't really experience anything bad. Like, well, then what's the point of life? I don't know. I would rather have all of that. I would rather be scared shitless from my nightmares if that also meant I could remember the fun dreams. I'm not satisfied. That's all. I'd like to have my dreams fixed. I'll figure that out one day.
There's got to be like a dream, like dream guru person or somebody. I mean, that, I don't know, like could help. I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I'll Google that later. Maybe. Yeah. I need dream coach. I need a dream coach is what I need.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. So back to your story. And again, we can talk about the story because the give is that like, this is behind the door. Like people aren't going to be like, oh no, you ruined the story for me. I'm listening to you talk about it first before listening to the story. So we can have spoilers and whatnot.
Okay.
But what was so impactful to me about these dreams that she was having was that in my mind, me taking it my own way, was that Lila was getting glimpses of the path that she was walking down, right? She was being shown the dress that was red, and she was being shown, the almost like the glimpse of the hamburger that was left over after her murder. What did any of that mean? Could anyone decipher what she was seeing and be like, oh, well, that means you're going to get murdered in a hotel and you're not going to eat the food that the bellhop brings up. Like nobody can do that. So if you yourself or me or whoever is receiving these images, what the hell do you make of that? Like, how do you deal with that? So the theme I got was like, you can even know what might be on your path. You could have ways to have glimpses, and if it were bad, you still can't avoid that. That's your path. That's going to happen. She was going to get murdered, unfortunately, but couldn't decipher it. And that's not even the point. Like, it's not like, oh, well, fuck, why didn't she decipher it? It's just, you can't. There's no way. And yet there's this beautiful tragedy behind even knowing your path. And still, you just got to write it. It just is what it is. Be here, be now.
Yeah. I mean, I think about a lot of times just things that impact me. And the idea, like, there's so many people, you know, women, but also there are men and children, people who, you know, maybe they were in an abusive relationship and they try to outrun their fate. But a lot of the time they get hunted down or preyed upon, and it's so wrong. And I guess a lot of times when I write, I try to write the wrongs in my head, or not even, but just explore them. You know, like, there's so much in this world that is wrong and we can't make sense of it. It's just, why would a person hunt another person? Leave them alone, you know, just go away, go be peaceful, live your life. But everybody, I don't know why there's such evil in the world. And I know a lot of people flock to religion for that. And I'm not knocking religion. You know, I was raised religious, but there's sometimes, you know, you just have to, I know a lot of people who are atheist or agnostic, and they're just cool. I mean, they're just as cool as, you know, and maybe sometimes cooler than some of the very religious people I know, and sometimes vice versa. I know very sweet religious people. You know, we're all just people. And I just think, like, you know, we all are trying to live our lives day to day, and the world is full of terror. Unfortunately, on the internet, we get all the cool stuff and the memes and the great, you know, things, and be able to connect with a long lost friend. But like you said, like, there are flip sides of things. The flip side to that is, you know, there's also, you get constant, like, articles about this happened, that happened, or, you know, I follow true crime to some extent, and it's just horrifying, some of these things that happen to people, and they're like, oh, there were warning signs. And I guess I wanted to, in the story, kind of say, you know, maybe somebody could read it and maybe they, you know, there were warning signs for Lila. You know, this dude, you know, him throwing himself on the floor saying don't leave, him shoving her. Somebody puts their hands on you, you leave, and you don't think about them more than you think about you. And I didn't understand that when I was younger, and I was always worried about other people. I was very naive when I was young, and there are so many things in my life that I look back on I would have handled differently now, but it is live and learn, and they did already happen. I can't do anything about them except maybe I could put them in my writing. And I know this sounds maybe weird, but just somebody maybe will click for them. Hey, I'm worth more than this. I don't deserve this. And yeah, you know what I mean? And it just kind of, that's always kind of my hope. I mean, maybe it's just like too ambitious. I don't know. But a lot of times
this is great. You have to be loud. You have to be big about this, because you're right. Like, we're all on a path. And what you can do is you can share the path that you've been on. You know, that the things that the trials and tribulations you've gone through, you can never tell someone, don't do this or that because I went through it. That's just anecdotal. But if you said, hey, I've experienced this, and you share that with them, and you let them just take it however they do, that maybe then, like you're saying, that will impact them, because then they'll be like, I'm also going through something similar, and this is how they dealt with it, right? You can never tell people that your path is the path. Everyone has their path. We don't walk the paths together. We all are walking our own paths, and we all run parallel to each other, and we can share with each other what we're experiencing on our path. This is my belief, of course. So you're absolutely... You're right. You should be loud with this. I have, 2 daughters. Same deal, that like instilling those values in kids, because you're right. Kids are already still in tune with mysticism, in tune with like the outside of things, how things could be instead of what they have to be. As adults, we're just like, no, you got to conform to society and do this and do that. And this is how you're going to, if you're not hitting these marks by this decade, you're failing. Like, who the fuck all got into a committee and said that was society? It just has grown itself. Anyways, it's important that kids, man, we beat it out of them as they get older. You got to conform as a teenager. You got to, if you have a messy room, make it functional messy then. If your child is messy, don't harangue them into cleaning it constantly. Like, have them figure out a way to make that process functional. Like, I love exploring that with my kids. Their generation is what's going to fix everything, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. And what you're doing is giving them a toolkit for life. You're saying, I'm not going to control you. I don't want to control you. I want you to grow and be your own person and learn. I'll set my example. This is how I do it. But we're going to figure out also how you do it, because they go out the door, they go to college or wherever, work, life. I mean, I think honestly they should have some kind of course for kids, especially kids dating and things like that by high school. I know they always have sex ed. I have no problem with that. I think that's necessary too. But some kind of course for relationships where they're aware of red flags. They're aware of how they deserve to be treated. I think sometimes kids are just confused. Like you said, you go from, a lot of families are like, no, you go to bed at this time, you do this at this time. They go from something a little more rigid into the world. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're used to certain patterns. They trust the wrong people. I read that our brains aren't fully developed until we're like 25. I don't know if that's accurate, but I read that somewhere. And it just makes you think, like, kids do take more risks. Kids don't necessarily, anybody could get hurt. No, but not everybody can see the warning sign. Somewhere right now, as we speak, there's somebody getting screwed over and they have no idea how. But I don't want to live in the world where I don't learn and grow to trust somebody, but trust is earned. And that's the thing. I think we shouldn't, as a culture, accept things at face value. We have to feel, how do I feel in this situation? Like, am I paying attention to my intuition? Does this feel right? Because too often, and I read a lot of these articles, and they'll say, oh, she thought it was a bad idea. It didn't feel right, but she kept dating the guy anyway, or she kept dating the woman anyway, because it could be anybody, any kind of relationship. It's not exclusive to men. I've known men who have been abused too, and it's so wrong. I just think we're not handed the tools in life, like learning how to protect ourselves. We learn how to share, we learn how to, ideally, but there's some people that just, they need a little more help in one area versus the other. A kid who's already very kind doesn't need help learning how to share. They need to learn how to put up boundaries and protect themselves and not be a doormat.
Right, right, yeah. So how did you discover that you could fit all this into this story? Like, you put so much, shoehorn is the wrong word, because that sounds like you were trying to just jam stuff in, but you were able to eloquently layer all of these ideas and beliefs of yours into this horror story. Like, how did you know what to do while writing this story this way?
My process for writing stories, I love the plain black notebooks, not the spirals. I like the, with the, kind of like the marble books, but they're not marble. And I get a black pen, because I love black pens, and I sit and I write it. The first draft for a short story is always handwritten. And so a lot of times I come back and I add more to it, upon second glance, this and that. And when I type it up on the computer, that becomes another a revision draft. Like, it's editing. It's a weird process, and I know it wouldn't work for everybody, but once I kind of adapted it, it just kind of, it works for me. And so perhaps in the initial, they weren't all, not everything was crammed in. This was going back. There's all kinds of my cursive all across, this and that, and, little carrots that I write, that I add things in. But the gist of it initially was, for sure, a conversation with her sister, a feeling, and the relationship between Lila and her sister Caitlin too was to indicate Lila, you could see where she feels less than, when she's talking about, the girl loves carrots, and, she feels like she's not enough. And when you approach life from a place of feeling like you're not enough, you're so focused on yourself, you don't, you're not aware of what's going on around you. It's almost like if you're walking down the street and you're not paying attention to the flow of traffic. It's, and that's not a good place to approach life from. So I wanted to set it up from the get-go. She's kind of in this little world of, she's thinking about her lost love and, talking to her sister, and she's not really quick on the uptake right now, not because she's not intelligent. She's an intelligent, artistic, passionate person, but she's just kind of lost the know-how of trusting herself. And so in that way, she is in danger because she does not know how to protect herself.
Ah, yes, exactly. It's, man, such a brilliant way to tie everything together in this story, and just put this really has this element of abuse and that is so tragic for people to deal with, that maybe hearing something like this could possibly, like, so you were saying that you felt a bit triggered maybe by hearing the audio of this. What were you thinking going through listening to the story?
I mean, I was remembering events of my own life. I've had the misfortune sometimes of picking the wrong partner. And I was even up to as recently as this past summer, I was starting to date someone who just went off one day. I was shocked. And I was like, how is this happening again? Because this person seemed calm. This person, although, but then I think about it, there were red flags. There were triggers. Example, I showed up, I was 2 minutes late, and this person says, this isn't going to work for me. You can never be late. That's weird. And
That's not right.
The little voice in me says, no, that's wrong. But then there's that little thing. I don't know if this happens to boys as much as it does, at least in my generation of girls. We were raised on Disney princesses and frankly nonsense. And it was like, be a nice girl. That was always what I heard. Be a nice girl, be a good girl. And that I put a lot in my stories a lot of the time too, just even when I don't say it, the idea of okay, I'll be nicer and I'll calm and diffuse the situation. And that puts me in jeopardy. And luckily I have a wonderful partner right now, who is just kind and good. And he's been through his shit as well. And I'm lucky I met him because, whatever happens between us, I think it's going to be great, everything. But he's also my friend and he's just a caring person. So that is all that makes all the difference. But if you had seen perhaps some of the people I had met over the summer, I mean, I could have gone on a very different path again, and life is like that. So all I would say to anybody listening or in general, just please follow your intuition. I mean, everybody should just learn that whatever's in you, this is a little weird. It might be even more weird than it seems at the moment. There's that little part of us that downplays, no, it's fine, and it's not sometimes. So
yeah, I agree with all of that. It's important to see red flags, and yet the irony is almost like it's almost only seen in hindsight. It may take a special, honed craft to be able to see them right away. Because, were you also prepared to be like, oh, he's mad that I'm 2 minutes late. You know what? I'm done with you, actually, and then leave. Where do you draw a line of this is a worthy red flag versus this is maybe some weird one-time thing that only happened because of X, Y, and Z? You don't want to explain it away, but
the problem was it was a first date, and that was literally our first interaction. So then in my mind, I'm like, well, let's see how the rest of the date goes. But I would say if anybody acts weird like that on your first date, okay, actually, I gotta go.
Yeah, that energy is wrong right away. Oh, yeah, no. Oh, for sure. Throw your coffee in that person's face.
I went on two dates with that person, and then they proceeded to call me on the phone and just scream at me, and it was more horrifying. I could just tell you. So,
I'm sorry for that.
No, it's okay. But I mean, literally, this dude was just like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? He started lumping me in with all women. And he goes, is it me? And I said, I got quiet and I was scared. And I was like, I think it's you.
Yeah, I'm going to say it is you. Jesus.
Yeah. And your worth should not be determined by who you're dating or not. But I just think one thing that really stresses me out about even dating sites and things like that, why don't they have background checks even on the paid ones and stuff?
This is true,
they were supposed to. They're supposed to. I had heard that like Tinder and all those were supposed to start implementing that in place, but it's how dare they, have these things and these paid things, and people, you watch Dateline or you watch anything, or you have friends who are like, oh, I went on this crazy date and this person went. It's that's not right. You should know if you're going to make an app like that. I think you should have safety protocols in place that, okay, this background checks at the very least. I mean, I don't, because that's how they find people. That's how they find victims a lot of the time, not just scammers, but just abusive people who are okay, and people, I think there should be a little more transparency, frankly. And I think, but it's my 2 cents trying to, I guess, save the world from my freaking laptop screen. I don't know, but
well, hey, speaking of your 2 cents, as we come to a close here, do you write lots of stuff? Do you have a place that people can find your stuff? You have a very important voice, and you have a lot of really powerful things to say. Where can people find you?
Well, I wrote a book very recently, and it's actually poetry, which I hadn't written since I was a teenager. And I actually think this was a gift to my formative year self, because it was on my bucket list. I was like, I have to do this. And it's called Guts, Lips, 55 voracious poems. And what it is it's, and it's on Amazon. It's on KDP and it's on, in paperback. And what it is essentially the chronicle of this last year. Because in 2020 on New Year's Eve, I had pain. I would not wish on my worst enemy. And what it turned out was it was a flare, and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease. And I decided to, in real time, because I couldn't write. It was weird. Like, I couldn't write horror anymore at the time. I was in so much pain. And the weirdest thing was, from writing, like, you get rejection. It's part of the craft. And yet every time I got a rejection letter, it was like someone was, oh, how could this happen? Because I was in so much physical pain as well. I was like, I need to just distance from, because that's a normal part of writing, and you cast your net, you give it a shot, and somewhere you find where you fit, but it was just painful in so many triggering ways. So what I did was I just said, I'm going to write these poems in real time. I put every single poem that I wrote, so which is raw, and it was from that year, from the diagnosis, from prior to the diagnosis when I didn't know what the fuck was going on, into it. So it's kind of like body horror. It's kind of empowering. It's about it's broken up in 3 sections, and it's called Guts Lips, because the guts are my stomach, but also like my tenacity and my, determination. But it's also lips. The lips is my mouth, my voice. I have something to say. And then also my vagina. As I'm a woman, I'm proud to be a woman. I'm a proud bisexual woman. I have a lot of life experience and things to say, and I needed to say them because you don't know. I had a friend who passed. They were working on a coffee table art book. They never got to finish that. Who knows where it is now? You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't sit right with me. It's like we have these platforms. We didn't used to have the capacity to publish our own, books. And it's a beautiful book, the way that I was just so impressed with what, I was able to put together.
That's beautiful. It's a collection of you all written out.
Yeah. And the poems in there, I labeled, there's 3 sections. So it's like, my tum, which was my stomach, my mouth, which is everything I have to say, and my vag. And it was very Riot Girl. Like, I really into, like, I was a 90s teen, so it's very much just like, that kind of, even the cover's very cool. It was like just a Riot Girl aesthetic. And I just, I'm proud of it. And so that is available on Amazon, Guts Lips, and it's with exclamation points, because I don't remember exactly what F. Scott Fitzgerald said about exclamation points, but I know he didn't like them, and I love them. And I love them because I talk, I get excited, and I kind of exclaim, and I feel like you can kind of get a sense of how I talk. So in my writing, it'll always be peppered with exclamation points, but I have that. And I've been very fortunate to be in some really cool horror anthologies. And I was in a Ramones anthology a while back from Fahrenheit Press. I was in some of the Dark Ink anthologies. Rebecca Rowland and Michael Eloisi edited Shadowy Natures, Unburied, which is an awesome LGBTQ anthology. And it's just an honor. And I think it's so cool to be involved in projects that I would fangirl about anyway. The Grey Rooms, I mean, I am such a fan of horror anthologies. I am such a fan of, like, horror anthology television shows. Like, I was a Twilight Zone kid, like, just so, this is just so awesome. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Really, like, I mean, I was like squealing when I was like, and what you guys did, amazing. The voice actors, and the artwork, oh my gosh, like, beautiful. So
yeah, Cassie is so good at that. Absolutely.
She's amazing. And this has been such an awesome experience. And I'm really, truly grateful. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast as well.
Sure. Did you notice, like, the blood dripping off of the text?
Yes.
That said death? Yes. Yeah. Cassie dials into all these tiny little details from the story. And then definitely puts that all over the artwork. It's really fun. It's
phenomenal. So it's just been so great. So thank you. And I really loved our conversation now too. So this is awesome. I look forward to Friday, to everybody being able to check it out. And
that's right. Yeah. You and I are talking right now. We, for listeners, your episode is not released publicly yet. So once people are hearing this, your episode will be out. Everyone will get that full impact. They'll know exactly what we're talking about. I'm very excited too. I loved your story. It very much impacted me personally.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say, like, for anybody who, the discussion is, it's not going away, the discussion about trigger warnings. But for me, it triggered me, and I need it to sometimes. I need to feel that horror trigger, and it's therapeutic and to get past. But if somebody's going to be triggered, a lot of times people get so angry. I was in an anthology and people were so angry at the editor, and they were saying, oh, you triggered us. But it's like, you don't know what it takes to write these stories. Like, we are triggered. We have our pains. We carry them. We instill them in our work, and we're doing this, it's cathartic and it's therapeutic and it's helpful to us and hopefully helpful to other people. But I don't know any horror writers who aren't kind and who would, it's just anybody who just gets all triggered. I mean, I'm sorry if they do, and maybe they just shouldn't be reading that genre, but they're also missing out tremendously on an amazing genre.
Yeah. And just let, to put a positive spin on it, let it be a trigger to help you grow, let it trigger your growth. So that's all that we can do here. So, Christina, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit in. I thank you for sharing your world with us here in the Grey Rooms.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brooks. I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun to chat with you.
Yes.
And as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. May you languish, lament, and loathe, but always with love. #Stay Grey. Take care and enjoy your evening, Christina.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.